Begin by introducing the panel this morning. To my immediate right is Clive Brown, the chairman of the Open Championships Committee. In the centre is Martin Slumbers, the chief executive of the R&A, and sound is now on, which is good. And the far right-hand side is Johnny Cole-Hamilton, the executive director of championships at the R&A. So I'd like to start with asking Clive to say a few words of welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Royal Portrush Golf Club. Welcome to the 148th Open. It's a real pleasure to see so many familiar faces, as well as so many new faces here in the media centre. The anticipation surrounding the 148th Open at Royal Portrush is very high. Tomorrow, the waiting will be over and play will commence. To arrive at this point, the R&A is grateful to a very large number of people and agencies throughout Northern Ireland and beyond. To them all, our thanks and best wishes. The opportunity to meet spectators and our volunteer marshals over the last 3 days has been a real pleasure. There is a real sense that the 148th Open belongs to them. We feel a huge responsibility to meet their expectations. So we are excited about the facilities for the spectators and the players alike. The Dunluce Links is in wonderful condition, waiting in anticipation of the world's greatest players. This is my last year as chairman of the Open Championships Committee. To have been involved with this championship is humbling, but very exciting. Let's hope the next 4 days delivers an Open fitting to the hard work of so many people, particularly in Northern Ireland. Have a great Open, and thank you.
Martin, I'll now ask you to give a short introduction as well, please.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Clive. I'd like to just put on the record our immense gratitude to Clive Brown for his work as chairman. And at this time, it's also very important to note that Clive's predecessor, Peter Unsworth, who is seriously unwell at the moment, our thoughts in the R&A are all with Peter at this difficult time. But before I take any questions, I would like to share some very positive news with you. This is a huge week for golf. It's a historic week for golf. But I would like to say that the 148th Open has not only been a sellout, but I can confirm to you this morning that this week will see our biggest attendance outside of St Andrews, with 237,750 spectators, which surpasses the 235,000 we saw at Birkdale in 2017. So this becomes the second highest attended Open Championship of all time. And in another sign of the growth of this championship, our initial sales at Royal St George's for next year have been even faster than they were this time last year for Royal Portrush. In previous years, I've said that big-time sport needs big-time crowds. And I think this clearly shows that the Open is going from strength to strength. It's very much a global celebration of sport at the very highest level, and no longer simply a British championship. That's very important for us because the Open is where we generate the income to be able to support the game and invest our commitment of £200 million into the sport over the next decade. I'm hugely positive about golf at the moment. I look at golf in its very varied ways. I think the R&A embraces the variety of golf, but we all have a responsibility to be positive about this wonderful sport in all its various forms. And with that, I'm open to answer any questions that people like.
Yeah, if you can raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you. Mike?
Question for Johnny. Just wanted to know what the challenges and the opportunities have been in coming to what is in effect a virgin site. You've been to all the other venues before. And secondly, sport is now being forced and encouraged to become more and more sustainable. What have you managed to do here to make sure that this is the greenest Open ever?
Yeah, I mean, it has been a challenge. All of our Open Championships provide a challenge to the team, but it's a hugely exciting one where we've had an enormous amount of support from multi-agencies, from the authorities, from the club itself. You know, we've built 2 new holes, we've moved the greenkeeper sheds, we've put a tunnel in place, and the Royal Portrush membership has been hugely supportive in that. We've had experience of having a clean canvas at Hoylake for the 2006 Open, and similar in 1999 was a long return from Carnoustie, so we had that challenge as well, and we loved the challenge and embraced it. In terms of the sustainability, you know, we work really hard with all our partners on waste, energy. We've obviously got the water policy where we've removed single-use plastic water from the site, which we're very, very proud of and very pleased, and we've had huge cooperation from lots of partners in that, so we're working very hard to make the Open as sustainable as possible.
Has it been an expensive challenge? Has it been an expensive challenge from a staging point of view?
Yeah, I mean, staging the Open Championship is not easy. It needs a lot of investment from all sorts of areas, including ourselves and government and multi-agencies, and it's a big exercise. It's, you know, we're putting a temporary village in a temporary small town and 450-acre greenfield site, but I've loved every minute of it.
Okay, next question, Bob, then centre.
I just wanted to ask, you've got internal out of bounds on 1 and 18, and I'm not sure if that's always the case here, but can you just discuss the reasoning for that? Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, no, the reason for the internal out of bounds is, if you go back in history, the club did not own that land. And so it was somebody else's land in years gone by, and as the course has developed, they've always kept that historically as out of bounds, and we felt that that was highly appropriate to do so this year as we've rebuilt the course and we try to stay true to how the course is played week in, week out.
That's just on 18, though, correct?
And first,
On
and the first. It's that triangle of land between 1 and 18 they didn't used to own.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff?
Martin, could you give us a little update on where you are with the distance study and meetings, and also elaborate a little bit on the concept behind the testing of the drivers here at the Open Championship, what you are hoping to find with that testing?
So, Jeff, we've been working for just over a year on a research project around distance and all its varieties, which we call the Distance Insights Project. That work is now complete and is in the process of being compiled, and we will be publishing the output of that research soon after the championship season finishes, and then we'll work from that point. In terms of the driver testing, we've always done driver testing we've done it for many, many years at the Open as a service to the players. You'll recall that last year, for the first time, we actually we moved it a little bit and said we wanted to test the following random sample of players, and we did the same thing this year, and we will continue to do that as we going forward. I think it's very important that the players, we work very closely with them and with the manufacturers to make sure that the equipment rules are in line.
Can you give us a little more specific on the date, on the timing of when we will learn your results of the test, of the study?
It's going to be around the October-November timeframe. We're going to wait until the season's finished.
Next question in the front here, please.
For Martin, Pádraig Harrington, the dual champion, said to us yesterday that he feels it's logical that the Open moves around on a global scale. He moves away from the current rota and goes beyond the boundaries of these islands. He mentioned Holland, he mentioned Australia. Is that something that's part of the R&A's medium to long-term strategy? And if so, maybe you might elaborate on that. And would a venue perhaps, and I'm wearing an Irish hat here, would a venue as Portmarnock perhaps come into that sort of equation?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that this week, and I think a lot of it is due to the great success of bringing it to Royal Portrush for the first time for a long, long time. But we have 10 courses on the pool that we use for the Open Championship. We think they're the 10 of the best links courses that we have in the world, and we are very happy with those 10 courses. We have gone to, if you think about it, over the last few years, going back to Carnoustie, going back to Hoylake, were great successes. And I think by any stretch, this week is a great success. And I think that Hoylake and Portrush are really venues which are going to be used and played for the Open Championship for many years to come. We are not looking at the moment beyond that pool of 10 courses.
Next question, John on the left.
Martin, apropos of that, is it absolutely inconceivable that the Open might one day go to an inland course?
I think the Open is all about being played on the best links golf courses. And so it's not in my mind to take it inland at all, John.
Next question, please. Fatia.
During your research and study about the equipment, which kind of measurement you used?
So this week,
No, during the study.
we have looked at we've looked at distance in every single way you could possibly think about it. Where were golf courses 100 years ago? Where have they been during that period of time? How long have they been? What has happened to golf balls? What's happened to equipment? We've gone to players, architects, all aspects of the golfing world and asked for their perception on distance. So we think it's probably the most concise and detailed research into the topic that's ever been done.
Next question, back right there, please, number 4.
Hi. I just wondered if you could talk through any of the unique security challenges at Portrush. Is there anything you've been looking at? Drone no-fly zones? Is it going to be safe for helicopters to come over?
As every year, security of players, spectators, yourselves is number one priority. We have our own security advisors that we work with. We have a very close relationship with PSNI this year, who have been incredibly supportive, helpful in both advising us of the nuances of a new venue, as well as the things that are consistent wherever we go. That process of work has been going on for the last 2 years. There is a no-fly zone above this golf course, going out into the sea and into the land, and that includes drones. And we have been specifically working with PSNI around drones and ensuring that we are doing everything we possibly can to make sure they do not come anywhere near the golf course or near our spectators.
Next question from left, Richard.
Martin, what is the current feeling about taking the Open back to Turnberry?
We have, Turnberry is one of the 10 courses. We've talked about this many times in terms of it being part of the pool of courses that we look at. Nothing's changed from the previous points and comments that I've made on that in respect of taking the Open there. But it's absolutely one of the pool of 10 courses.
Okay, next question again. In the middle here, please.
Martin, this is about the environmental impact of our sport. And the water stations are such a good sight to see, and it's a great start. But what more can we do as a sport to try and, make it far more environment friendly over the years?
Well, I mean, the Opens are shop window for what we're doing. So Johnny talked a few minutes ago about, for a number of years, we've looked at whole concepts of recycling, reducing to as close to zero the waste to landfill, This year was the step forward on single-use plastic water bottles. We will look to do more on plastic in the coming years. But you're absolutely right. The whole game needs to look at sustainability. But it's quite interesting that when you actually look at a lot of our golf courses and the way we do manage it, this sport is doing a huge amount for sustainability, for nature, for water conservation. And we started a project a year ago in the RNA, which we're working broadly with agronomists and advisors around the world, which we're calling Golf Course 2030, which is all about saying if we had to maintain the playing surfaces that we have today with a fraction of the water usage that we use today and no pesticides and no fertilizers, how would we do that? And that is it's in its early days of the work. It's not an easy question, which is why the question mark has been set, and it will create great opportunities for the game in the future. And I think we do have a responsibility to be sustainable in the way our game is played.
Okay, next question, Derek, back left.
Martin, the Women's British Open is being staged on an inland course, as you know, in a couple of weeks. As you assume full control of that event, do you envisage it falling in line with your philosophy about the men's event and just being held on links courses?
I think that's a very good question, Derek, that we're looking at very carefully, and we get full control of that event next year. We're as ambitious for the Women's British Open as we are for this Open. But I have said previously that we want to grow the women's game. We're passionate about growing the women's game and doing it, but we need to build a sustainable women's game. And that means building a bigger amateur game right from the very beginning up to the top. As we're looking at the Women's British Open, how we attract more people to watch the championship, to watch it live, watch it on TV, and engage with it, it may be that all being on links courses may not be the right answer. And we were at Woburn in 2 weeks' time, and I wouldn't be surprised to see with the Women's British Open a mix of some of the great inland golf courses and the great links courses, but all aimed to try and make the championship more engaged with by the public.
Jeff, in the middle again.
Martin, given some of the things you've described that the RNA is working on, we've seen some significant increases in purses. Is there a point where you could see this sort of race to increase purses impacting your ability to carry out the mission that you're hoping to succeed with so many of these various ventures?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the business in the round. So a lot of my responsibility is to balance up the revenues and expenses of our championships with our desire to invest £200 million into the game in this decade. We're 2 years into this decade. And I think we have to keep growing the Open. This is our biggest event. And we need to keep growing it to keep it one of the world's greatest sporting events, but with half an eye on how do we improve the difference in pay between the Open and the Women's British Open. And you will all have seen that we increased the Women's British Open prize money for this year by 40%. And to do that in line with our investments into the game. And we have to juggle all three things. But I think that's what's really important about the RNA, that what would we really care about is a great championship out here, but we really care about the game. We want the game to be here 50 years from now, and we want it to be thriving. We want more people to be playing it. We want more families to be playing it. And trying to balance all that, yeah, that's part of my job.
Next question in the front here, number 3.
Yeah, for Martin. Can you take us back to October 2015, when the RNA announced that the Open was returning to Portrush? What was the emotion, the feeling in the room? And did the RNA get a sense that, for some, this was an impossible dream come true?
I wasn't actually in the RNA at that time. I think we have looked there's been a lot of talk about it coming back here. I think from our perspective, there are so many people who have made this possible. And from politicians to the wonderful tourist board that Northern Ireland has, and they should get huge credit for the effort they have made to make this a success, through to the club and the imposition on the club to make the changes for here. I think the members have been wonderful to work with, and they have all of them have shared, how do we put Royal Portrush on the global map? And the Open is the way that we're doing it. Yes, we're going to celebrate the fact that we've had some fantastic Irish golfers in the last few years. But this championship will be watched in 600 million households over the coming 4 days, all around the world. And that profile will bring into the households this course that many people would never have heard of, and this beautiful landscape. So they all shared that passion. You can feel it out there. I have never been to an Open Championship where so many people, as I'm walking around, which I do every day, have come up to me and say, thank you for what you have done. But it's thank you to lots and lots of people, and we're really enjoying it.
Next question, Doug.
Martin, when you guys take full control of the Women's British Open next year, will you change the name to the Women's Open Championship?
That's something we are considering very carefully. We'll be announcing something in due course.
Next question, the centre.
Sorry, there's obviously, it's amazing to see so many young kids walking along, and the atmosphere, as you say, is wonderful. Do you feel slightly queasy, though, that there's a march, a Saturday 3-hour march with bands like the Sons of Ulster playing, and does it perhaps send the wrong message when you've got such an inclusive tournament going on?
I mean, there are 30,000 under 25s will be attending this week, and our camping village we've been running it for 3 years. We've had something like 8,000 under 25s staying there. So under 25s is a very, very important part of our product that we're trying to develop. We are very conscious that the Open comes to town once every X years. We are very conscious that we are guests here. We're guests every year at the place we go. As guests, we are very conscious that we want to be part of the community. We are very clear that we want to spend money in the community. We want to help with legacy funds in the community. But we will be gone in a couple of weeks. And so we want to live with the community. And every year, certainly since I've been here, and I think Johnny would say the same, there's always things going on around the golf. And that's wonderful. And the community carries on. Our job is to put on the Open Championship and to respect the fact that we are guests.
Next question.
There's a question for Martin. Hi. It's very encouraging to hear what you're doing as an organisation regarding recycling and plastics and stuff like that. I'm also curious to wonder, as an organisation, what you can do on the playing side, and whether you feel there's a responsibility to get the players to take more responsibility. And I'm thinking in terms of first-class jet travel, private jets, and also the massive logistical effort to set up the Open, the manufacturers' lorries, the club manufacturers' lorries, and whether or not you feel any responsibility as an organisation and a governing body to try and nudge the players in that direction.
Well, on the contractors' side, what do we have? About 7,000?
Yeah, I mean, on the contractor side, we contract with around 150 companies, and we work with them all. They've got their own corporate responsibilities, and they understand that, and we're working to reduce our requirements on generated power and diesel, on, as Martin said, recycling as much as we can, getting 0% to landfill, and we're working with these companies all the time on that. So in terms of logistics, that is very much at the forefront of what we're trying to do.
I think on the players' side, the stars of the show are twofold come tomorrow morning. the golf course, and the players. We are all here because the best players in the world have traveled from all around the world to be here. And I think as environmental issues impact all of us in every parts of our life, I think that may become an issue in the future years. But at the moment, I want the best players to be teeing it up tomorrow morning, because that's what makes the Open.
Next question. Next question, Jamie, in the middle, please.
Martin, hello.
Sorry.
Hello. The Women's Open, it'll soon be called. Can you foresee a time in your tenure where there'll be equal prize money? It's quite the issue at the moment.
James, I am passionate. I think the future of our game, the amateur game, is in getting more families to play golf. That is the real opportunity that we have. When you look at countries where the game is growing, it is a much more family-orientated sport. And so I'm very certain about that. To build the economics of the Women's Open, the Women's British Open, to be able to keep raising the prize money, we need to do it as a sustainable business model. It needs to be a long-term business model. And that is what we are spending an awful lot of time doing. How do we build a better model to have a more financially successful Women's British Open that will flow then down into the prize money? Where it ends up, I don't know. But my ambition is to keep growing the overall performance of it, and keep enhancing the status of the event.
Sorry, can I just have one more? England, Scotland, Northern Ireland. When are you going to take this thing to Wales?
That is a somewhat challenge at the moment, but we do have, as I said, 10 courses that we're very happy with.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more questions, I'm afraid. So let's start in the second row, first of all, please.
Martin, within the RNA itself, how's the integration of women coming along? I mean, for instance, how long will it be before Clive is a woman? And also, you know, on the question of diversity, I mean, we're still, well, these 2 younger guys don't have the white hair yet, but we're a bit of a monochrome bunch, aren't we? So how's the diversity coming along as well?
Well, I'll leave Clive to answer your earlier question. We launched 18 months ago our Women in Golf Charter. You were there, if I remember correctly, which is all about getting more women and girls to be playing the game, but to be working in the game. And that is gathering pace. There are over 100 organizations are now part of that pledge. And I think that we're going in the right direction. Do we have a long way to go? Yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having that question. But do we think we're going in the right direction? Absolutely. If you get to the RNA committees, I think you'd be surprised how many females are part of the committees now and are learning their trade. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see a female chair of the championship committee in the near future.
Okay, we'll have to make this final question, Mike.
Martin, finally, this is the first year that the Open's been the 4th major of the year. It's traditionally been the 3rd. Just wonder whether you think that adds to or detracts from the Open, and could there ever be a case made to link the 4 majors as a mini order of merit or a major champion, or is that a conversation that's ever been had?
That's a conversation I've never been part of. I think when I was consulted on the move of the Players' Championship into March and then the PGA, I could see nothing but positives for the Open being the 4th major of the year. I think the press coverage has borne that out. It's been a pretty fast season, I have to confess, but I think it's added an additional nuance to this week, and it probably adds a little bit additional feeling around who's going to become the champion golfer of the year.
Well, on that note, I'll thank our panel for joining us this morning, and thank you for attending the press conference.
Thank you very much.